it's a wild ride tonight. From classic muscle to the latest ride. Together we're a force, we got nothing to hide. Fuel in our veins, engines running hot. When we hit that gas, man, we give it all we got. We're the gearheads, living for the thrill. Wrenching on a ride's got the ultimate skill. Revving up our hearts for the roar of the streets. With cars and the girls, man, it just can't be beat. Yeah, we're the gearheads, part of the crew. Life's a wild ride and we're always breaking through. Tires squealing as we race through the night. Underneath the stars, everything feels right. Got a classic Chevy and a hot rod too. Every girl's a queen when we roll into view. With leather jackets on, we're the kings of the block. Shining up our cars, talking about the next mod. Drag strips to car shows, we own this town. When the engines fire up, we're the talk of the crowd. And we're the gearheads, living for the thrill.
Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. Another action-packed thrill of a day. What a time to be alive. Can you take me back to the before times, please? Just ongoing tension, conflict. Today, Trump threatens Putin. Gives him an ultimatum. People on Ukraine's side say he's in Putin's pocket. People on Putin's side say he should be threatening Zelensky. Nobody's happy. Certainly not the first ministers in Canada who met again today to talk about ways to minimize the impact of what seems to be imminent tariffs on the Canadian economy coming in, but not just Canada, also Mexico, China. The world is being turned upside down, even as I speak. Stay with me. There's a lot to get into tonight, and who knows, maybe we'll get a chance to go to the phones and you can join the conversation. I will be right back after this.
Maverick News. Expose lies and tell truth. The world is watching.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are Maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Let's get into it, shall we? Today, Trump pretty much laid it on the line for Vladimir Putin. At least it appears that way. Negotiations haven't started, but Trump says that if Vladimir Putin doesn't make a deal, and soon, things are going to get a whole lot worse. He says that Putin can do it the easy way or the hard way. Headlines being made all around the world. This is the way mainstream media, pretty much everywhere, was responding to this today. This is Sky News. Let's just take a listen.
Let's just bring you a bit of breaking news about President Trump and about the war in Ukraine. You will, of course, recall that he said that he would end the war in Ukraine on the first day that he came to power after becoming president again. Well, he hasn't ended it, but he has certainly sent a warning shot to Russia in the last few moments on his Truth Social. He has posted, I'm not looking to hurt Russia. I love the Russian people and always had a very good relationship with President Putin. And this despite the radical left's Russia hoax. We must never forget that Russia helped us win the Second World War, losing almost 60 million lives in the process. All of that being said, I'm going to do Russia, whose economy is failing, and President Putin a very big favour. Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse. If we don't make a deal, and soon, I will have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Let's get this war, which would never have started if I were president, over with. We can do it the easy way or the hard way, and the easy way is always better. It's time to make a deal. No more lives should be lost. So that's President Trump's latest statement on Truth Social.
So she read it. I was going to get into it and read it myself, but I thought, hey, there you go. She's kind of done it all. Now, well, I'll show you here, okay? Some people are not happy. A lot of people not happy. No way to win on this, I guess. It's a terrible thing to have to deal with because you get people upset on both sides no matter what you do. But so here you see a repost of Donald Trump's statement directed clearly at Putin. And you see people who are pro-Ukrainian saying, well, here's this post saying he doesn't want to hurt Putin, who placed $200,000 bounties on American soldiers. Trump is a weak man. He's in Putin's pocket. And then here it says Trump threatens Putin and failing Russian economy with real sanctions, tariffs, taxes, Russia and all of its buddies who trade with Russia unless Russia cuts a peace deal. Do it the easy way, says Trump. And that's old.
Just bring you a bit of breaking news.
We've already done that. And here's Rachel Blevins
all different
on
talking about all of
the Russian side, I would say.
About all of these different ways that Russia is fighting back, that Russia has the upper hand in the war in Ukraine. And then you have Trump sitting here acting as if Russia is losing this war, right? As if they're on the losing end. And he's saying it's only going to get worse. He should be telling that to Kiev right now, right? Kiev is the one who should be hearing that message of it's only going to get worse. You should make a deal, any deal you can get right now, because they're the ones who have refused to deal this entire time. And yet here Trump is putting out this statement to Vladimir Putin, who for the last 3 years has said, I want to talk. Let's have talks. I'm open to talks. And Trump is sitting here acting like he is in some sort of backwards world. I don't know who's feeding him the information that he's getting, but it is not remotely correct. Trump then goes on to say, if we don't make a deal soon, I will have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries. Sanctions, tariffs, and taxes. That's his answer. That's what he legitimately thinks is going to be enough to drag Putin to the negotiating table, to get him to make a deal with the West over Ukraine. Is this man out of his ever-loving mind? Has Trump not paid attention whatsoever for the last 4 years? Because if sanctions would have worked, then Joe Biden would have accomplished whatever he wanted to accomplish, right? If sanctions were the answer, then Biden would have successfully suffocated the Russian economy, put so much pressure on the Russian government that they were forced to resign, that they would be effectively overthrown, and then the U.S. could do similar to what it did over in Kiev and put in a Western-backed government that gave them whatever they want and then some. But that didn't work. So why does Trump think that, oh, we just need some more sanctions, that, oh, we just need to put some more pressure on the Russian government? Like, are you an idiot?
Well, see, the truth gets sort of obscured in the fog of war, especially the information war. The first casualty of war, they say, is truth. So, well, who's getting what information from whom? Where's she getting her information? On the internet. Where's Trump getting his information now? Oh, from U.S. intelligence, which some people would say is an oxymoron. But I'd say a lot of the intelligence coming to his desk now would be fairly accurate. So he'd probably have a pretty accurate picture of what's going on over in Ukraine. And I would say, especially since he was elected, I'm sure they've been briefing him regularly on this. So I think he's probably got a pretty good handle on the reality of the situation. And I can tell you, too, that she's mistaken. Zelensky has stated publicly that he is ready to make some sort of a deal. He's ready to come to the table. Vladimir Putin also stating in the last 24 hours that he wants a lasting peace with Trump, but we've seen officials, at least one official in the last week, also come out and say that they're not interested in actually talking to the Trump team at this time. So there's a little bit of a conflict there. I would say that Trump will get an opportunity to actually sit down or have some sort of discussion with Putin about this. But where will that lead? And who has really been, not really willing to make a deal? Well, we even had Kevin on the other night, and he said Putin's not really interested in making a deal. And right now, there are a lot of reasons for that. And of course, it depends on who you listen to. But it's fairly clear that he's backed himself into a position where he, at this point, is really looking for some sort of a full victory. He has over 800,000 soldiers, Russian soldiers, who have died in the Ukrainian war. And he has to answer to some degree, at least to the Russian people, and certainly to the people who hold power behind the scenes as well in Russia, those oligarchs. So it isn't as cut and dried as even she is indicating. There's a lot of pressure on Putin. He needs to save face. There's politics in play there. And militarily, he seems to have, at least some forward momentum. On the other hand, he's not been able to meet his objectives, and it has been something of a disaster for Russia. A military operation, special military operation that Putin sold to the people initially as something that would be successful within a week. We're now over 2.5 years in. It hasn't been successful. They've only captured some of the initial areas that they first went into in the Donbass, predominantly Russian-speaking territories, and then he kept on going. Even though he also told us repeatedly that he really didn't want to take over the whole country. But he's pushing. He certainly seems to want it all now. And it doesn't look to me and to a lot of other analysts like he really does want a peace deal right now. It certainly isn't looking for a ceasefire, because Russia views that as an opportunity only for Ukraine to take a breather, recover, rearm. So believe what you believe who you want to believe what you want to believe. Just who knows? Don't believe whatever. Just, I don't know exactly what the situation is, because nobody does, unless you're getting really credible information, really credible intelligence. I think it's fairly accurate to say that I think it's very accurate to say Putin has not achieved what he wanted to achieve going in there in the timeline that he first laid out. That much is pretty obvious. And all the pundits who kept saying, it's going to be over in 3 days, next week, within a month, and the U.S. doesn't stand a chance, just give up, stop funding it. Lies, lies, lies. And you can't tell me it wasn't lies, because we're now over 2.5, going on almost 3 years now, for something that was supposed to be over within a week, and then it would be the next week, and the week after that, and then the month after that, and within 2 months, and within a month again, and it'll be over next month, and the next week again, and we never stood a chance. And yet I would say Putin has underestimated Europe, he's underestimated Ukraine, he's underestimated everything. And is the economy truly in trouble over there? Well, I think it's under stress. There's all kinds of real empirical evidence to back that up. Inflation, very high in Russia right now. It has been for quite a while. The sovereign wealth fund is being depleted. Some people are saying it's pretty much gone. Yeah, from the information I'm seeing, it has been depleted to the point of probably over half. That's the future of the country that he's dipping into there. So in that respect, he really needs to win as well, because he needs to claim the spoils of war. Now, he already has some of the most valuable Ukrainian real estate in Crimea and the Donbass. Strategic location. He wants that prime farmland, though. And he just captured lithium mines. So there's a lot going on, and a lot that people really are not cluing into, weren't really not aware of. And the sanctions, well, they didn't really work, because they weren't really truly enforced. We just showed you within the past 5 days that Russian oil, which has been sanctioned, has actually been making its way around the world, and Putin has been doing an end run around a lot of these sanctions, using loopholes in the sanctions imposed by the Biden administration. And some of that Russian oil, as a refined product, has actually been finding its way all the way back over here to Canada and into airplanes as aviation fuel, jet fuel, even gasoline, because of Russia's ghost fleet. Old ships, not always flying a Russian flag, but then taking Russian oil to friendly ports in places like India, where it's then refined or mixed in with other oil from other countries, or where it's purchased and then it is no longer actually a Russian product, and then it's shipped back out and reaches even Western destinations into the Western economy. But now that's been identified and targeted by the West just within weeks as Biden was leaving office. And so those Russian ships now being targeted and corralled even. Some of them so old that I think they've had, 4 different disasters involving ships from the Russian ghost fleet, because they're just old, antiquated, broken down, and they're trying to basically fly under the radar, if you will, so that they can deliver Russian oil around the world. But now they're being sort of targeted, and there's a whole NATO program in the Baltic nations there to intercept those vessels, and so they're getting very serious about it, and that is also having now a pretty major impact on the Russian economy. And those pipelines flowing through Ukraine shut off now, no longer supplying energy to Europe. That's putting another big dent in Russia's economy. Basically, Russia's lost its European market. He's been cut off. Another, I would say, miscalculation. So these are all very real, very serious issues for Vladimir Putin. Let's take a little break. I'll come back on the other side. We'll continue with our coverage today, a little bit more on this, and then we're going to get into a more elaborate response today, more detailed response coming from Canada's first ministers to Donald Trump's threat against them and Canada and Mexico and China of tariffs. Don't go away. Lots more coming up.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV.
The entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Things are getting more serious, even as Donald Trump tries to take these steps. No wonder he wasn't able to end this war. Even before he took office, he wasn't able to end it in a day. And they're now looking at, 100 days? And I think that may be wishful thinking as well, because Russia is escalating. Make no mistake. For the second time, a spy ship detected and now intercepted in UK waters, and the UK government making a big deal out of this now. The Britain's defense minister rises in Parliament to inform the world of this. This has echoes to me. This all sounds very much like one of those old radio broadcasts, during World War II. This is what's ringing in my ears tonight as I listen to this. It's ominous. It's like the past coming back to haunt us. Very, very concerning. World War III? Yeah, worry. We need to be very, very worried, in my opinion.
With permission, I wish to make a statement on the UK's response to recent Russian maritime activity. I'm glad the House has been waiting for this morning. Mr. Speaker, a foreign vessel, Yantar, is currently in the North Sea, having passed through British waters. Let me be clear. This is a Russian spy ship used for gathering intelligence and mapping the UK's critical underwater infrastructure. Yantar entered the UK exclusive economic zone about 45 miles off the British coast on Monday. For the last 2 days, the Royal Navy has deployed HMS Somerset and HMS Tyne to monitor the vessel every minute through our waters. And I changed the Royal Navy's rules of engagement so that our warships can get closer and better track the Yantar. So far, the ship has complied with international rules of navigation. But, Mr. Speaker, this is the second time that Yantar has entered our waters in recent months. In November, the ship was also closely watched and detected loitering over UK critical undersea infrastructure. To deter any potential threat, I took measured steps then as part of a clear direct response to the Russian vessel. RAF maritime patrol aircraft, alongside HMS Catterstock, HMS Tyne, and RFA Proteus, were deployed to shadow Yantar's every movement. Today, I also wanted to confirm to the House that I authorised a Royal Navy submarine, strictly as a deterrent measure, to surface close to Yantar to make clear that we had been covertly monitoring its every move. The ship then left UK waters without further loitering and sailed down to the Mediterranean. As colleagues will understand, I won't comment further on reasons for operational security, but I want to thank all the personnel involved for their dedication and their professionalism. And I also want President Putin to hear this message. We see you, we know what you're doing, and we will not shy away from robust action to protect this country. And with our NATO allies, we're strengthening our response to ensure that Russian ships and aircraft cannot operate in secrecy near the UK or near NATO territory. Mr. Speaker, this is another example of growing Russian aggression, targeting our allies abroad and us at home. The heads of MI6 and the CIA recently stated together in a joint statement Russia is waging, they said, a reckless campaign of sabotage across Europe. We're seeing periodic incursions of Russian military aircraft into airspace for which we are responsible. And on Christmas Day, the S-Link 2 undersea cable between Finland and Estonia was damaged. Many analysts believe this was caused by a vessel in Russia's shadow fleet. Mr. Speaker, Russia is dangerous but fundamentally weak. In Ukraine, it has suffered devastatingly high rates of casualties over 3 years in a war that it thought it would win in a week. And compounding the humiliation, Putin has been forced to turn to North Korea to reinforce its frontline fighters. And while the strategic defeat in Syria, of course, has exposed its diminishing power on the global stage, and at home, the Russian economy faces crippling strains. Nevertheless, Mr. Speaker, Russia remains the most pressing and immediate threat to Britain. And I want to assure the House and the British people that any threat will be met with strength and resolve. First, we're delivering on the foundation of security in our plan for change by making Britain secure at home. Yantar has now passed through the Dover Strait and is in Dutch waters. In September, RAF Typhoon scrambled to intercept 2 Russian Bear F aircraft operating near the UK. And the Royal Fleet Auxiliary is also playing an indispensable role in safeguarding offshore infrastructure with its multi-role ocean surveillance ship, RFA Proteus. Second, we are making Britain strong abroad, working with NATO and Joint Expeditionary Force allies. The UK activated Nordic Warden with Jeff partners after the S-Link 2 cable damage. The operation is tracking potential threats to undersea infrastructure, monitoring the movements of the Russian Shadow Fleet, and sending out real-time warnings of suspicious activity to Jeff allies and to NATO. And today I can confirm that the RAF will provide P-8 Poseidon and Rivet joint surveillance aircraft to join the new Baltic Sentry NATO deployment to protect critical infrastructure in the Baltic Sea. And third, Mr. Speaker, with allies we're piling on pressure on Putin. This year the UK will provide more financial aid in military support to Ukraine than at any time since the full-scale invasion began. 4.5 billion, delivering military support to enhance training and strengthen industrial collaboration. The UK is also leading ways to put pressure on the Russian economy, including sanctioning over 100 ships in the Russian Shadow Fleet, more than any other nation, working with other countries to stop Russian military acquiring the goods and the equipment and the technologies they require to continue their fight and war against Ukraine, and with allies exposing the activities of the Russian intelligence services, expelling Russian intelligence officers, and sanctioning individuals responsible for hostile activity against the UK. Mr. Speaker, Russian aggression will not be tolerated at home or in Ukraine. It's why one of the first acts of this government was for the Prime Minister to launch the Strategic Defence Review. It's why the government has increased defence spending next year by almost £3 billion. And why we'll set a path to increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP in the spring. Mr. Speaker, this new era of threat demands a new era for defence. Change is essential, not optional, and the government is determined to meet the challenge, determined to deliver for defence. We will protect the homeland and our critical national infrastructure, and we will make Britain secure at home and strong abroad.
Secretary of State James Cobb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Secretary of State for early sight of his statement. Particularly grateful to the Secretary of State for the greater level of transparency he has chosen to share with the House about the grey zone threat from Russia. We welcome that transparency because it is critical for our war readiness as a nation that, as far as we are able, and without compromising our national security and operational security, we tell the British public the truth about the serious nature of the Russian threat and what that will inevitably mean for public expenditure on defence. Now, I specifically welcome the change to the Royal Navy's rules of engagement. This sends a powerful signal to Putin that we will not be intimidated, and that if his aim is to keep pushing the boundaries of malign activity in our waters and those proximate to us, we will respond. And I can confirm that the government will have the full backing of His Majesty's opposition in doing so. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the government on Ukraine. We stand shoulder to shoulder with them on deterring the wider Russian threat that he has outlined today. Now, I appreciate it is unusual to go into such operational detail, including about the operational deployment of submarines. Equally, we appreciate that this is about sending the strongest possible signal to our adversaries about our clear intent to protect and defend our homeland. So, if I may, I have a number of specific questions about the statement and its particular contents. A key issue here is the safety and protection of critical undersea infrastructure. Beyond the operations the Secretary of State mentioned in his speech, such as Nordic Warden, will he confirm whether he is looking to widen the number of international partners proactively involved in addressing this threat to the North Sea and the Baltic, and what discussions is he having to drive an internationally coordinated response, including through NATO? Given our prominent role within NATO, we have a clear opportunity to lead the way in developing cutting-edge underwater technologies that address these threats directly. Can the Secretary of State confirm that he is prioritising development of underwater capabilities, such as uncrewed systems, through Pillar 2 of AUKUS, but also with European allies, and in particular that R&D investment into capabilities to protect critical infrastructure will be an urgent priority? Moreover, will he commit to do everything possible to hinder the abilities of GRU operatives, including all possible action in concert with allies to restrict their ability to enter the United Kingdom? Madam Deputy Speaker, I am very grateful to the personnel of our Navy, the RFA and our Air Force involved in addressing these threats, and I want to sincerely thank them as well as the crews of allied vessels who assisted in tracking this ship through their waters. One particularly important point the Secretary of State said was that Russia is dangerous but fundamentally weak. Does he nevertheless agree that Russia's willingness to tolerate such enormous losses on the battlefield against Ukraine underlines that in conventional military terms it remains a formidable foe before one even considers its unconventional capabilities? In my view, Russia remains a critical threat to the United Kingdom. And for that reason, I very much welcome the Secretary of State's clear decision to be more open with the country about the threat we face. So can I urge him to ensure that from the heart of government, we have a serious grip on communicating and planning for the fact we do face the most serious nation-on-nation military threat to our homeland for generations. In turn, this means that the SDR needs to be fundamentally threat-driven, prioritising homeland defence and putting the necessary resource in place. So to conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, in a situation where we have seen the RFA, the Royal Navy, submarines, helicopters, P-8 aircraft and other assets involved in tracking Russian activity, does this not show the full extent of the work needed to defend our island and deter our adversaries, and ultimately why we need to increase defence spending as soon as possible? Finally, he said again in his statement, as he did at orals, and I welcome it, that the SDR will report in the spring. Can I urge him to ensure that this is in March at the very earliest opportunity, and that we will achieve at least 2.5% spending on defence this Parliament?
Secretary of State.
Madam
Deputy Speaker, can I welcome the Shadow Defence Secretary's welcome for this statement and for the government's greater transparency. He, like I, has confirmed that he sees Russia as, in his words, the most critical threat to the UK. He's been a defence minister. He understands, as he acknowledges, the importance of sending the strongest possible signals to our adversaries, and that is the underlying reason for the decision I've taken to make this statement today. He asks about and argues that this is an opportunity for the UK to demonstrate leadership within NATO in response. I think we have already done that, not by asserting that argument, by the actions in launching and leading through the GEF 10 nations, the Nordic Warden response to the attack on the S-Link 2, and by now confirming that we will play a leading role in the new NATO deployment into the Baltic, which is linked to the work that we're doing through Nordic Warden. He asks about the priority for our undersea cables for our homeland infrastructure. These cables aren't simply a technical network. These are the infrastructure, the things that we depend on for our daily lives, the operation of the internet, the supply of energy, the communications with other parts of the world. He will therefore have seen and noted in the terms of reference of the Strategic Defence Review launched by the Prime Minister within 2 weeks of this government being elected in July, that defending and reinforcing the homeland defence of Britain is foremost in those terms of reference.
Okay, so I just took a brief look in the chat there. Well, Peter, the reason I'm showing that is because it affects you and Canada and the world. What this illustrates is this war is not likely to be over anytime soon, even if Donald Trump pulls all U.S. funding. Now, things would be somewhat different. I'm not exactly sure how things would play out, but there's resilience here. And Europe, these European countries which do see Russia as an existential threat, they're stepping up. They have been for the last few months. So people who think that this is all about just Donald Trump, you're quite mistaken. You just heard them announce additional funding, the largest tranche of funding coming from the UK to Ukraine. And it's happening now. Now that is to some degree a response to what Trump represents, which is a possible withdrawal of US support. But it doesn't mean the war is going to end. The other danger here is that because Trump potentially could pull back and no longer be engaged or reduce U.S. influence and engagement in the conflict, with more involvement from these other countries, and we're seeing that now in the Baltic Sea area, and from countries like the UK, where they're potentially going to be boarding Russian shadow fleet vessels, this could trigger something catastrophic. And keep in mind that we're talking about NATO countries. These are countries that are part of NATO. And if there is any kind of a conflict, any kind of an attack on a NATO country, it draws all NATO countries into the war. So it's very important. And that's why I'm focusing on it here tonight. We need to be taking note of this. Canada's a NATO country. You don't want Canadian boots on the ground in there? You don't want to send your kids to war? Then it needs to end in Ukraine, and it needs to end in a way that doesn't draw NATO directly into it. It needs to end in Ukraine now without NATO involvement directly in order to avoid direct involvement with NATO troops, Canadian troops, U.S. troops, sending our sons and daughters off into war. And if Russia has ships going into the territorial waters, even close to NATO countries, with these shadow vessels, spy vessels, dragging anchors, attacking, destroying underwater pipelines and communications cables, those are acts of war unto themselves. Those things alone could trigger and could be viewed as an attack on the country. And that could result in indirect conflict. Now, and keep in mind that Putin has declared war on NATO. He has come right out and said it. But the United States, other NATO countries, they've not acknowledged that. They haven't reciprocated. They haven't said, yes, okay, you declare war on us, we're going to declare war on you. But Putin has. He says, as far as he's concerned, Russia is at war now with NATO. And Russia is now engaged, and clearly it's just a fact that Russia has been engaging in acts of sabotage against some NATO countries. So yeah, darn right I'm going to be paying attention to this, because this is exactly what can trigger a much larger conflict worldwide. Kinetic. It could take that war right out of Ukraine and spread right across other European countries and NATO countries. Putin isn't going to want that, but I can tell you too, not very many people talking about this, but there are very credible reports. It looks like the intelligence reports are accurate, that Russia has now stationed somewhere between 300,000, maybe even 400,000 Russian troops in Kaliningrad. And that is a strategic location. Right in between a couple of NATO countries. Ready to, those troops could move into like Poland. And they're all situated right there and ready to go at a moment's notice. And I don't know that we're ready for something on this scale, but then you saw the Prime Minister of Britain go to Ukraine and give them a 100-year security guarantee from the UK. Don't need NATO. Now NATO's in there. You've got a NATO country offering a security guarantee. In other words, UK is going to back these guys. At least it appears that they've said it. And that was a message to Trump. And Trump is in a very difficult place right now. And if he backs away, and he already has to some degree, the United States is losing its place as like the dominant power in the world. Trump's just going to take his ball and bat and go home, or the U.S. ball and bat, and that will have greater ramifications than people realize, and that's because the United States basically had a social contract with the free world after World War II because it was the nuclear power, and it has been an obligation of the United States to provide security for the entire world. And as an extension of that, that has been one of the things that has propped up the U.S. dollar worldwide as the world reserve currency. If the United States loses its position as the dominant power in the world, it puts the actual U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency at risk. And that's going to affect you too, Peter, and all of us, because if the dollar collapses, our entire economy collapses. And what's Trump doing with these tariffs? It's flippin' ridiculous, because he's attacking his allies, who he seems to view as enemies, kicking us all in the shins with the threat of these tariffs, 25% on everything. Like it's a number he seemed to have pulled right out of thin air. I can tell you, at 25% tariff on most goods, there isn't that much markup. There isn't that much margin of profit on a lot of these commodities, including oil, which we already sell at a discount to the U.S. So this is really backward thinking. Department, or the External Revenue Service, where he's going to extract value from other countries. Good luck. What authority does he have to go around just taxing other countries and extracting value for his own citizens, his own country? None. These are just tariffs. And if you make this is just fundamental, basic supply and demand and price dynamics, basic economics. If you make a product too expensive, your consumers will just stop buying it because they won't be able to afford it. Or if the people producing it can't make any money doing it, if it costs money, or there's no incentive, because why go to work if you're not going to get paid? Why do stuff for free? People will just stop producing. So this will result in massive shortages and a huge hit on the U.S. economy in ways that I don't think people fully understand, because a lot of people don't even seem to know what a tariff is. And it's all being flipped upside down. Like it's in our case here in Canada, it's like it's all our fault. It's all Justin Trudeau's fault. That's just knee-jerk reaction, contrary thinking. Whatever the mainstream media says, I think the opposite. Whatever Justin Trudeau says, I think the opposite. Whatever Donald Trump says, I'm on Team Trump, so I'm all for Trump. Give your head a shake, man. Start analyzing this stuff based on the issue and the facts, and look at the impact that it's going to have on you. And that's not just for Peter, that's for everybody. That's for all of us. We literally could end up owning nothing and not being happy. This is really serious stuff. This could cripple our economy and the U.S. economy. This could bring everything crashing down. It makes me wonder, honestly, what the hell he's thinking. And as a businessman, it's blowing my mind. I don't know of any serious economist who would look at this tariff plan that he has and come away with the conclusion that in some way this is going to benefit the U.S. Not if it's actually done. Quite the opposite. And contracting, pulling back in. He wants U.S. growth. This is all about degrowth. This is about contraction. This is about taking the United States and destroying its influence globally. He's making enemies out of friends. And I don't know what the hell he's doing with his enemies. And he's treating Putin using the exact same approach to end the war in Ukraine with sanctions and tariffs as he's treating Canada, which is the biggest trading partner and ally, greatest ally that the United States has, even greater than the UK, even though the United States rarely acknowledges that. But we're right next door. We do so much together. We really are related countries. Geographically, we're just on the same patch of land. It just blows my mind. It just defies logic. This is stupid. And I'm not of the same mind as a lot of other people who are saying, well, he's doing Canada a favor because now we're talking about all these issues. I get it. But there's too much at stake. This is irresponsible, and it's not necessary. And he's serious. He's saying that he's serious, and we need to take him seriously. And every day, these threats of sanctions and all this talk, it just escalates with him. It's not toning down. And people say, well, all that we have to do is fix the border. Well, the Canadian government, Trudeau, he's already responded. How much did he say he was going to spend on the border? I think it was $1.5 billion. It's already been promised, allocated, and in fact, it's already in action. Here, I'll show you. In fact, even today, I'm pretty sure. I know that it's true because I saw it. Hang on here. Well, here, I'm going to show you first. Here's Trump. This was him signing executive orders, which also blew my mind. People are like, he's so for democracy. 200 executive orders, making laws, declarations with a stroke of a pen. That's hardly democracy. One guy I'm just changing everything. I think you're going to see legal challenges on some of this stuff, depending on what it was that he signed. But one guy bypassing Congress and 200 of these things, every one of them open to legal scrutiny. And I think you'll probably see some challenges. This is unprecedented. In his entire time in office, Biden only signed a total for his entire administration of like 160 executive orders. Trump comes in and on first day, 200. I think Biden signed 9 on his first day in office. And people criticized him and said that was dictatorial. He comes in and signs 200, and people are, it's like radio silence on the concerns about democracy. 200 executive orders. One guy, a decree from on high, from the emperor. It's just, okay. Yeah, and you think this is about freedom? I don't know. I mean, it's great if he's doing stuff that you like, not so great if he's doing stuff you don't like. And I have no idea what he's done because I don't have time to read 200 executive orders. I don't even know all the things that he's done. This was all pre-planned far in advance. He had this stuff ready to go. And here he is talking, answering a question while signing some of these things after his inauguration.
Can speak to President Putin?
Could be very soon.
And you talked a bit about Ukraine and Russia, but how long do you think it would take to end that conflict? And
I have to speak to President Putin. We're going to have to find out. He can't be thrilled. He's not doing so well. I mean, he's grinding it out, but most people thought that war would have been over in about 1 week. And now you're into 3 years, right? So he can't be thrilled. It's not making him look very good. Now, eventually, it's a big machine, so things will happen, but I think he'd be very well off to end that war. We have numbers that almost 1 million Russian soldiers have been killed. About 700,000 Ukrainian soldiers are killed. Russia's bigger, they have more soldiers to lose, but that's no way to run a country.
Yeah. This is what I've been saying for weeks. Those are the numbers that I've been citing, very close to that. And I think those are probably pretty accurate. And I think he's being honest with people. And so as much as I've been criticizing him too, I think deep down in his heart, and just really, I think he does hopefully have the best interests of the United States, Canada, and the world at heart. So let me take another quick break here. I do need to take a break, and I'll be right back.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so First Ministers met again today in Canada to deal with the threat of these tariffs. Very real thing. And what they ended up talking about was more interprovincial trade in order to mitigate the impact of this if it comes to pass. So we'll see what happens. But here's Ontario Premier Doug Ford again outlining what happened, because he is kind of the lead, the designated lead for all the premiers dealing with this.
So we had a really productive meeting with all the premiers and the Prime Minister and a couple federal ministers as well, making sure we have a solid plan. We know these tariffs are coming on February 1st. We need to match those tariffs dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff, and make sure that it hurts the Americans as much as it hurts Canadians, because it's going to hurt Canadians right across the board. But we have to come back strong. What we all prefer to build the AMCAN fortress, I apologize, and ship them more energy, more critical minerals. But we also have to look internally. As I said, we should all be looking in the mirror, and we need to look at internal trade that could pick up the GDP. But I've heard numbers anywhere from $50 to $100 billion. We have to speed up approvals. We're hosting the world's largest mining show, PDAC, just in a little while, and people from all over the world are going to come here. But it's unacceptable. It's taking 10 to 15 years to get things moving. It's unacceptable that the Ring of Fire, the largest find in critical minerals in the world, that is taking years to get approvals. It's unacceptable that we don't have Energy East Pipeline coming out to Ontario and out to New Brunswick. And again, the Northern Gateway going out through BC until we can ship our crude oil around the world. We have to stop being so dependent on the U.S. You know, we saw this during the pandemic when President Trump cut us off on N95s, and I said, never again will Ontario have to rely on any country in the world. And we built a supply chain, built it up within a couple months. So this is what we need to do, and we need to move forward as quickly as possible, but we're ready for these tariffs on February 1st.
Premier, were you and the other premiers and the Prime Minister able to get Premier Danielle Smith on side?
Well, we had a good discussion with Premier Smith, and she understands we need to be united, and I understand that she wants to protect, her main commodity, but country comes first. Over anything. And you can't throw, a tool away from the toolbox. As I said to the premiers, you can't bring a knife to a gunfight. Usually the guy with a knife loses when in a gunfight. We have to make sure that we match these tariffs dollar for dollar. We need to target where it's going to impact Americans the most. We need to target the Republican-held states and the Senate and the Congress and the governors. That's what we need to do because we don't want this. No one wants this, and including a lot of the Republicans and Democrats that I've talked to. Matter of fact, have yet to find one citizen of the U.S., one elected official that says, yeah, I agree, we need to target Canada. Anything but that. And the rest of the world knows they're next.
But Premier Smith didn't agree to you. I mean, you and the Prime Minister have been in lockstep, and have the other 11 of the 12 other premiers. She still doesn't agree with your dollar for dollar tariffs and the counterattack, basically.
Well, not right at this point, but I think we're moving her along. I understand, but make no mistake about it. We do have a united country. I'm hearing it out there. You folks are hearing it everywhere. It's Team Canada. Canada is not for sale, and let's keep being united.
Premier, just to clarify that, everyone's agreed to dollar for dollar tariffs, not this sort of staged approach that had been floated previously?
Well, everyone wants to take everyone wants to take the positive approach. And I've as they've seen on our hits on those commercials and social media, My comms people told me we've had 500 million hits. And those are pretty staggering. And I just encouraged all the premiers, get your ads down there, and the federal government, get your ads down there, because the people play such a huge part of this. If they're calling their congressperson or calling their senator and the phone's ringing off the hook with their governor too, believe me, that works. That gets in the ear of the president.
And what barriers are you prepared to drop, interprovincial trade barriers that Ontario maintains, to achieve this goal of
well, we put this committee together, and you know, folks, this has been going on forever, and enough's enough. Let's sit down and come up with a list, because everyone wants to protect something, no matter if it's the you know, the dairy cow in Newfoundland or the wine in BC or ourselves. Everyone's guilty, so we need to sit down and we need to move this forward. It's really going to help the economy, and we're going to put a list together. I've asked one of the premiers to put a list together and start moving forward.
Last question. That list was supposed to come together, though, a few meetings ago, and just
a few years ago. So
why isn't that list?
Because everyone wants to protect their stakes in the ground, and saying, okay, well, I'm all for internal free trade, but you can't use this, you can't do that. So they're you know, we're going to move forward. We made a little headway, I think a couple of years ago. This sounds ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. But first aid kits across the country, they were all different. Tires going on trucks. If you went from one province to the other, you'd have to change the tires. Just, you know, those are silly things, but we have to look at larger commodities, larger sectors that we have to focus on. But I encourage everyone, when you're walking down the aisle, you have an impact. When you look at made in Canada or made in Ontario products, buy them. Make sure that we send a message to the big retailers that have revenues of $147 billion, and that's Costco, Sobeys, Walmart, Metro, and Loblaws. Send the message, buy Canadian products, onshore Canadian products.
Thank you. Are you preparing for an election call
Jim.
next week?
Stay tuned. But we need a mandate from the people. We need a mandate to protect and possibly spend billions of dollars to protect people's jobs, to protect businesses, and to protect communities. And there's only one group of people, one group that is going to give you the mandate, and that's the people, and that's what's great about democracy. They either vote a government in or they vote them out. But thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All valid, I would say. All very valid. Now, to the people out there who are saying, well, just fix the border and the problem goes away. The border issue has already been addressed very quickly, immediately. You may not remember this, but right after Trump leveled these threats of tariffs, the Canadian government responded. And in with unusual speed, they've actually implemented what's been demanded by Donald Trump. They were in action before he took office. Here's Trudeau today. Don't lose your minds. He is the prime minister. I'm showing you this stuff. Every time I run anything with Trudeau, people's heads blow up. Try to keep it together. I'm just showing you what he posted. RCMP Black Hawk helicopters start patrolling Manitoba U.S. border. It's already happening. Premiers have addressed this immediately. The Canadian federal government has addressed the border issue. There's more coming. There's already stuff being done. And yet the threat of the tariffs remains. We have a date, February 1st. It's a very real thing. And it's pretty clear to me that at this point, just fixing the border is still not going to be enough. And don't forget, do not lose sight of the fact that Trump announced, even before all of this, that he was looking to renegotiate the USMCA trade deal, which replaced the North American Free Trade Agreement. And it was the USMCA deal that Canada, the United States, and Mexico negotiated the last time Trump was in office. He likes to make deals. I don't know, maybe he just likes to sit down and renegotiate everything all the time. Whatever is going on, it's not just about the border, but that's part of it. And then yesterday, we saw that the U.S. government and Tom Homan, who is the border czar, they started their deportation program. And they actually did round up and arrest some people that they deemed to be illegal migrants or immigrants. I believe they made 300 arrests yesterday. That was the number that I saw. And there's a lot more of that coming. A lot more. And that will impact our border as well. Here's Danielle Smith and what she posted today. You heard Doug Ford talking about the Premier of Alberta, the oil-rich province of Alberta in Canada. And he's quite right. She is interested in protecting Alberta's oil resources. And here's what she had to say, because she's still sort of the outlier, the black sheep of the Premier family, because she has come out and went down and told Donald Trump, oh no, don't worry, Donald, we will never cut off energy no matter what you do to us. We'll never cut off your energy supply. You might not need to cut it off. He's cutting it off for you, Danielle. I don't think you understand. He's imposing a 25% tariff on your oil as well, or at least it appears that will be the case. Of course, he probably wants that oil, so maybe he'll exempt that. Who knows what he'll do? But right now, oil is on the table, whether you like it or not. It's on the table because Donald Trump has put it on the table, and the 25% tariff, as things stand right now, will apply to energy as well, which could make it just unaffordable or less attractive to buy on the market. So what's Trump doing down in the U.S.? He's going to drill, baby, drill. He's going to make the U.S. energy independent again. And not only that, he wants to start exporting U.S. oil. Maybe he'll just turn off the pipelines which flow through the U.S. That's the great danger here, and we don't know what he's going to do. So it isn't Trudeau or the other premiers or the Canadian government that is the great threat to Alberta at this point, in my view. It's just demonstrable that the real threat is still from the United States, because he's the one imposing the 25% tariff on Alberta oil, not the Canadian government. Now, that being said, Doug Ford is threatening to, in Ontario, remove all U.S. alcohol products from the Liquor Control Board of Ontario retail stores if the 25% tariffs go into effect. So he'll take all U.S. booze off the shelves, and then, of course, Canadians will just have to buy Canadian alcohol. I think for the most part, Canadians do buy Canadian branded alcohol anyway, but yeah, that's one thing that can be done. We see it in BC. The government there is saying that they'll impose essentially a tax on trucks. If all this happens and Trump does what he says he's going to do, the BC government says they'll impose a tax on U.S. trucks that are traveling through British Columbia and Canada up to Alaska. The United States has a problem there because geographically, Alaska is cut off. So how are you going to get your goods up there? I guess they'll have to start using more ships. I don't know how easy that is in the middle of the winter. Up to Alaska. So yeah, trucking, there's all kinds of things that I think maybe Trump hasn't even thought of. There's a problem. That's a little tool that can be used to push back and say, hey, if you do this, we're going to do that. And I think that we're well within our rights to do that, and we need to get smart, and I think that's a smart way to do it as well. We don't want to do it. The premiers don't want to do it. The prime minister doesn't want to do it. But there it is. If we get hit, we punch back. And if they stop punching us, then we'll stop punching them. But don't make any mistake who started this whole thing. And are we really the threat to the U.S. that we're being made out to be? I don't think so. I would like to see more empirical evidence. Maybe Donald Trump has some skewed data or some faulty information about how much of a threat Canada truly is. I'm not saying that we don't have some issues up here, but I don't think we pose anywhere near the threat that, say, Mexico does. And even there, the border is ultimately, the U.S. border is the responsibility of the United States. If you don't want people coming into your country, Mr. Trump, you now have control of your border. You deal with the damn border. We have to deal with ours. And as this deportation program that Trump is rolling out unfolds and rolls along, we're going to have to deal with asylum seekers coming up to our border, and that will be our responsibility. Is he going to pay for our border security when we have to deal with all the migrants flowing this way? All U.S. immigrants that he's pushing out of the country? No, I don't think the U.S. is going to pay for that. He's not interested in that. That becomes our problem, right? And we're a free country. I said this to some people, even in conversation today. This makes no sense because, look, Canada is a free country. As a citizen, anybody in this country, you want to leave Canada, you're free to leave. Anytime, nobody checks you at the border. Imagine what it's going to be like if you have to go to the border and have Canada Customs check you, and then you go beyond that just to leave the country. It's like, who are you? Well, I'm Joe Smith. Where are you a Canadian citizen? Yes. Where are you going? I don't know. What business is it of yours? I'm a free person. I'm a free citizen. I'm just leaving. What do you care? Right now, the Canadian government doesn't care. You can leave. I can leave anytime you want. You go to the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor and you head off to the U.S. When you leave the country, the Canadian government's not looking at you. You pay your bridge toll, but they don't check you. And you head off across the border. It's on the other side. U.S. Customs stops you and checks you. And then if they think you're okay, they let you in. But it's not the Canadian government stopping. That's all Cold War, Soviet Union, Berlin Wall thinking. You got to wall up your country and keep people in? That's, I guess, where this is going. Trump wants us to fortify the border and make Canada responsible for people leaving the country. Is if we let that kind of mentality take hold, every time you go to leave the country, they're going to stop you before you can leave. They stop you, to inspect you when you're leaving Canada for, on a plane, just to make sure you're not carrying any weapons or whatever. But you don't really get checked by customs until you get to the country you're going to. You see how screwed up this is? Upside down think. This is not the way things work. It just isn't. But it might be. See, when during the Cold War, the Soviet era, before the fall of the Berlin Wall, they had to build a wall to keep their people in. Because they weren't a free country. So if you want to leave a communist or a country or a place of a dictatorship, you want to leave North Korea, good luck. Maybe. You had people who would defect from communist countries during the Soviet era, right? They escape and seek asylum in the West. Well, we're not a Soviet bloc country. We're not a communist country. We're free. You want to leave? Leave. United States, you want to go to the U.S., you want to go to Cuba, you want to go, I don't know, to England? Nobody's going to check you until you get to the country of destination. Then they're going to ask for your passport. Then they're going to scrutinize you because you don't have the same rights in a foreign country that you have in Canada as a Canadian citizen because you're not a citizen of the country you're going to. You cross that border into the United States, you're not a U.S. citizen. You don't have the same rights as a U.S. citizen. That's why they stop you at the border. It's upside down, man. Trump's making it our responsibility to defend his border. That's a nifty little trick, isn't it? But I guess when you're the big boy on the block and you're Godzilla, you can force other countries to do your bidding. No, thank you. I'm not interested in that. We're going to defend Canada. We're going to do what we have to do. I'm on Team Canada. It's just the way it is. Not that I want to hate on Trump or anything, but that is the reality of it. And people need to wrap their heads around that, I think, and support their country. If you love your country, if you want to keep your country. It's just upside down, think. World's upside down, though. Here, again, more about the border. Let me show you. here we go. Here's the RCMP posting what they're doing out in Manitoba at the border there, because this is a major border crossing area into that part of the U.S. Let me show you. There it is. So the RCMP, Federal Policing, Northwest Region, they've increased their security posture along the border with the addition of regular Black Hawk helicopter flights along the Manitoba border with the U.S. And here are images of this actually taking place. Not making it up. It's not like it's going to happen soon. It's happening now. So this is what they're doing already. So yeah, Canada has responded in a positive way, trying to head off the tariffs by addressing the border issue. But still, February 1st, it's coming. So tell me what else we're supposed to do. Because I'll look in the chat. Anybody else know what else we're supposed to do? Because it's not even really clear at this point. Trump's not making it clear. I'm sure the premiers would like to know. It's just very obvious that this is about far more than that. And it's not just about Trudeau. It's not just about Canada. This is about the other countries as well. It's the External Revenue Service. He's established a whole new government department. I saw posts online today with people saying with the ERS, Americans probably won't even have to pay income tax anymore because Trump's just going to enrich Americans. And Pooh Bear says, Rick, wake up. We need to stop the drug issue. Okay, that's what the border stuff is about. And the U.S. has a damn big drug problem too. And we have a lot of drugs that flow from the U.S. up into Canada. And there are a lot of guns that flow from the U.S. up into Canada illegally. But it's our border. We have to fortify that for Canadians, just the way the U.S. does as well. We should be working on this stuff together. So I'm well aware and wide awake, Pooh Bear. I appreciate the comment, but I get it. And I know fentanyl, yeah, and that's generally a Chinese-derived drug that they keep sending over here. And if you really want to deal with that problem, Trump should be focused on China and cut it off at the source, where they make the stuff and then ship it out initially, rather than trying to intercept it after it's been shipped over here and it's all split up into other shipments and it's harder to intercept that way. Deal with China. Put some pressure on the Chinese government more. And he has. You know, they've talked about this with China, but I don't think that China's that serious about dealing with it, honestly. I think it's been weaponized in a lot of ways to flood our society with a deadly, debilitating drug. Yeah, and Cheesecake says, yeah, Trump said he'd put tariffs on China too. I know. That's what he's doing. He's using the economy as his main tool of bludgeoning, a weapon, in order to whip the world into a shape. And that's okay to some degree. I'd much rather see the U.S. use economic tools to essentially wage war, if you will, against adversaries. But we're not an adversary. This kind of approach is not helpful. It's not necessary. Because we're not an enemy. At least we weren't. I hope he's not making us an enemy, turning us into an enemy. And I hope he's not setting up conditions where ultimately we then are viewed as some sort of a national security threat to the United States, to the degree where he might take even larger, more serious actions against Canada. And he says he wants us to spend more on military spending, but you know, Canada has always been a country that has been only allowed to have so much military strength because we are right on the border of the United States. The thinking here is very skewed and different than it has been at any time in the past. So how could Canada possibly really realistically prepare for any of this? We didn't see this coming. There was not even any mention of this during the election campaign, but here we are now. Brace yourselves, it's coming. So it's not like we haven't done anything to address this. And the whole world is being turned upside down, and I think a lot of this is going to backfire on Trump. If he follows through with this, maybe he'll just use it as a threat all over the place, and then he'll get some or all of, maybe even all of what he wants, and then all these things go away. But it doesn't feel like it. It feels very dark to me. And over in Europe, they're taking it very seriously. Zelensky, addressing this issue in a speech that he delivered, was it yesterday, I think it was yesterday, calling on Europe to step up and do more to protect themselves, which is exactly what Trump wants anyway. And this is going to happen. European countries who do see Russia as a real serious threat, and they do see Ukraine on the front line of defense against Russian expansionism, which is a real thing, and we're seeing absolute evidence of that in other countries like Georgia, Moldova, Belarus already. And even with the talk of what is going on with that spy ship in UK waters, and here's Zelensky addressing this. Well, where did it go? Hang on. No, we need to. We'll come. I'll show you Danielle Smith first. So this, I was going to show you this before, but there is her post today. She says she took time between meetings with the U.S. senators and House members today to speak with my premier colleagues and the Prime Minister about the ongoing threat of U.S. tariffs. And in my view, the direction of the discussion was more positive this week, as there appears to be a growing consensus, though not entirely unanimous, on the following points. One, the need to visibly demonstrate our nation's commitment to tighter border security and to accelerate our 2% GDP NATO commitment. Two, the importance of building more oil and gas pipelines east and west within our country to diversify our customer base, removing interprovincial trade barriers and increasing Canada's competitiveness. And three, the necessity of consulting with and securing consent from individual provinces before cutting off or placing export tariffs on key exports from these provinces. Alberta will continue to oppose any such extreme measures on our energy exports, and for a general agreement on the need to focus more on constructive, proactive diplomacy with U.S. lawmakers rather than escalating rhetoric. And while more discussion is needed, the group is moving closer to a consensus on how to handle the U.S. tariff challenge. They're working it out. And whether Danielle Smith says it's on the table or not, everything is on the table, including energy, make no mistake. It's absolutely on the table, and we'll see how it plays out. But I'm not so sure that direct tariffs like that will end up being what the tools are that are used anyway. I think it'll be a more strategic thing. And, there are other things that can be done, not just using tariffs, but also non-tariff barriers to trade, regulations. You can use regulations, laws. You can make deals with other countries. There are strategic things that can be done. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. So stay tuned. And over in Europe, you're going to see now, the trust has been broken. This is an important thing. This is about the economy. This is why it's going to hurt the United States in the long run. Canada, what are we going to do? What are we going to do now? Even if Trump doesn't impose those tariffs, this is going to hurt the United States. And it's probably going to benefit Canada in the long run in greater ways. But now the trust, the level of trust that we've had with the United States since the creation of this country has now been violated. It was already damaged because of things like what Doug Ford said, supply chain issues and N95 masks during the pandemic. And now this. So Canada's going to build those pipelines east to west. We will send energy to both coasts, east and west, and we will ship our energy around the world. And we will stop relying so much on the United States, and we will pipe that energy to Canadian provinces without routing it through the United States ultimately. As long as Canada holds together and we keep this country a free nation state, a sovereign nation state, free of the coercion of any other outside foreign influence, including now the United States, which seems to pose some sort of real threat to Canadian sovereignty and even the existence of the country. Very real. Very real indeed. And so over in Europe, here's Zelensky urging European countries to step up and increase their military spending as well, just like Trump is saying, but do it because now they don't trust the United States. Trump has already broken the trust, you see, for the United States, regardless of who becomes president now, because the president can change every 4 years. The direction of everything can change on a dime. And so promises that the U.S. makes, now people don't trust the U.S. There were already trust issues. This, real serious now. Because promises were made to Ukraine, now it looks like Trump might break those promises. We've had a long-standing great relationship with the United States all these years, for over a century and a half as a real country. And now that trust with the United States has been violated. So we're going to start trading more with other countries to diversify and spread our risk so that our economy and our country is not as much at risk. Here's Zelensky addressing, oh my goodness. Do we have it? No. I've got it here. Hang on. Yeah, this is Zelensky in Switzerland saying that he's calling on Europe to establish itself as a strong global player, saying that it needs to be able to guarantee peace and security for itself, not just for Ukraine. Here he is.
And Europe must have a seat at the table when deals about war and peace are made. And I'm not just talking about Ukraine here. This should be the standard. Europe deserves to be more than just a bystander. With its leaders reduced to posting on X after an agreement has already been made. Europe needs to shape the terms of those deals. Does anyone in the United States worry that Europe might abandon them someday, might stop being their ally? The answer is no. Washington does not believe Europe can bring them something that is really substantial. Europe must be able to guarantee peace and security for everybody, for itself, and for others, for those in the world who matter to Europe.
And as Trump does what he's doing, he's diminishing the influence of the United States within Europe. And European countries will emerge as a greater power, ultimately, I think, as a result of this. So there you go. And I got lots of haters like, oh, there's one of my favorite people. Valiant Thor. Rick is by himself on all content loser. He will stay forever begging for your money. Thanks. And who else hates me tonight? Not 1 inch eastward. Yeah, that's Russian talking point. I've shown you that that's actually there. You go find me the actual agreement. You bring it back. Doesn't exist. You can't find the agreement signed. Who are the signatories? None. Doesn't exist. But it makes for good talking points. Who else we got in the chat tonight hating my guts? You just keep watching though, Valiant Thor. You keep on coming by. Make sure you hit the thumbs down to show how much you hate me before you go. Cheesecake Canada will not accept bitcoins as cash value, but USA, yes. Whatever. Please don't forget, Valiant Thor, to hit the thumbs down. Yeah, make sure you hate the channel and do everything you can to destroy us here. Thank you for that. And Valiant Thor, I'm going to put all your comments up here that I can while I have the moment. All women are smart enough to know Rick is a total liar, storyteller, loser. Thank you. Let's keep going here. Show people how intelligent you are. Valiant Thor, some of BTC buddies I had online were Canadians. I don't know. That's Cheesecake talking to Valiant Thor. Anything else from Valiant? Anybody else want to hate me tonight? Anybody else? Cheesecake says, Rick doesn't understand the tariff game. Might straighten up Canadian corrupt politicians. They make Canada better. Please, sir, can you spank me harder, Mr. Trump? Jesus. I really like it when you beat me up. Can you please beat me more? Here's Valiant Thor. He loves me. Rick is by himself on all content loser. We already saw that one. What else we got? Anything else from this guy? Oh, you keep the emails coming too there, Valiant Thor. I love that crap. The threats are wonderful. Tanver says, I didn't give you a thumbs down, Rick. You were showing your immaturity, though. Okay. Just showing all the people who hate me. Let's go over to the Rumble chat. Maybe I can read some of that stuff. Got to open you up over here. And hello, Mavericks. Hello, everybody in Rumble land tonight. I'll just scroll back here a little bit. What are you guys saying in the chat over here? Yeah, too much for air. Says kissing Trump's ring was their first mistake. Only made Trump want more. I agree. Yeah, just be respectful, but be strong. And I think that ultimately we're gonna work this thing out, and one way or another we're gonna be okay. We've got a lot going for us here in Canada, and I don't think I'm just trying to be careful here too, not to make this some partisan thing or politicize it or just exploit it to make it look like it's Trudeau's fault. That guy's gone anyway, so there's nothing really much to be gained by targeting Trudeau with Trump's assault on the country, saying it's all his fault. This is not the time for that. This is very, very serious. This could destroy our way of life if we don't respond properly. It could destroy the total economy. Half of our trade relies on the United States. What else we got in the chat tonight? Crickshank. And Dragon's in there. Hello, Dragon. And CBC Brown 44 says, smarter people over here on Rumble. I agree. Yes, sir. Yeah, tonight that is absolutely the case. I don't see too many people hating on me over here in Rumble. Love you guys. I love you guys in the YouTube chat as well. And Pooh Bear says Trudeau is not gone. He's not. Yeah, I know. Stop losing your mind. He's going to be gone. He's gone. He's going to be gone. Unless an election is forced beforehand, and even then, I don't know. I don't know how they would handle that exactly, but if an election is forced before they can choose a new leader, but he's gone. And good question, Tanver. What is hate? There's a subject for another night. Maybe in greater detail. We could talk about hate speech. And Tanver says, I calling you out hate, Rick. Okay, enough of this. And William says, after the leadership race, proroguement was, 9 weeks or something? I think they come back, what is it, March? Parliament resumes? I can't remember. But again, this isn't unprecedented. It has been done before. I think even Harper did it. It buys the government some time. And there are a lot of reasons why he did it. But certainly it's being used as a strategic tool to give the Liberals time to select a new leader so they can go into the next election on a stronger footing with someone fresh. And I know, but people aren't happy no matter what this guy does. Of course, people aren't going to be happy. Everybody wanted him gone. Everybody cheered when he said that he was, announced that he was going to resign. Now people are like, you shouldn't resign. You should stick around for the next election so that he suffers defeat. It's just, yeah. And Cheesecake says, does Rick like Polyev? Whatever. I don't endorse any of them. I don't endorse any politicians at this point. I'm waiting to see what he actually does. And Tanvir says, I'm happy because I don't hate Rick. Well, thank you. I don't hate you either. And Laura Robo says Trudeau is pulling a Biden. I don't know. Is he pulling a Biden? Yeah, kind of. Sort of in a way, right? Because he's ducking out. Yeah. But at least he's not doing it in the middle of an election. That I don't think has ever happened before. He was doing so badly that they then had to handpick another candidate to replace Biden with Kamala Harris. They didn't even go through the leadership process again to select an alternative candidate. They just picked her and said, okay, well, it's going to be you then. And she got it. I don't know how democratic that is, but I guess it became necessary because the guy was absolutely going to lose. And Pooh Bear says, I don't hate you, Rick, just a conversation. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I know. A lot of this stuff makes people uncomfortable. Don't like to talk about certain things, or some things seem to trigger people. What was going on today with the Elon Musk stuff? That's something that's really triggered people. I got to tell you, it's like everybody's now running to Elon Musk's defense because of him, because of his outstretched arm. I said it was a really stupid thing to do. I stand by that. He's not getting any slack from me on this. What did he think would happen? And don't tell me that he doesn't know better than to do that. Regardless of how he meant it, he needs to be thinking about what he does. But Rick, you got Asperger's disease. That's what a lot of people are saying. Like, don't pick on Elon Musk. Don't pick on Elon Musk. Elon Musk is one of the richest guys in the world. He's able to fight and win against the Securities and Exchange Commission on $1 million and maybe even $1 billion lawsuits. He's very intelligent. He's supposed to be a genius. And somehow he doesn't have the presence of mind or the ability to think beyond what he's doing to the point where he gestures like that on stage. What did he think would happen? Of course, the mainstream media is having a field day with it. And not just the mainstream media, but all his political opponents. And now everybody who's like, mindless about these kinds of things and triggered, they're triggered back the other way. You got to defend Elon. Let him fight his own battle on this, man. Like he made his bed with this one. Let him lay in it. But of course, everybody is like, "Oh, you got to defend Elon." Look, so now, of course, they just roll out all these pictures now to try to make it look like he didn't really mean it. Look, everybody puts their arm out. Look at all these people giving Hitler salutes. Yeah, whatever, man.
Well, it was supposedly.
They had all these. Does he have other ones on here? Yeah, he's like, here you go. So This is Alex Jones doing his bit to come to Elon Musk's rescue, criticizing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I'm no fan of hers, that's for sure. But look, they're trying to make it look like, see, he's just doing what they did. Whatever. Rick, you're just taking it out of context. I just ran the video. People got upset with me just for running the video of Elon Musk doing his arm gesture. You're not supposed to show that, though. It makes me feel uncomfortable. That's news. Everybody's running it. I wasn't the only one. It's gone viral around the world, man. Of course it has. So maybe Elon should think a little bit more carefully about what he does and how he does it. And it's absolutely in context, especially because he's been accused of being a Nazi over and over and over and over and over again, along with a lot of other MAGA people. So don't be surprised when they come and attack you when you do something like that at a political rally. Imagine, and I'm not defending anybody, I'm just saying, in this political environment, can you imagine what would happen? Of course you can. If Trudeau did that, would you attack Trudeau for it? Oh, the blackface pictures would be coming back out. The pictures of Trudeau in his pink Nazi outfit, the memes, all that stuff. It'd all be rolled back out. They'd be running 24/7, or on a rotation, and everybody would be just. You'd never hear the end of that if Trudeau put his arm out like that. In the same way, and you know, I'm telling the truth. You know. So it works both ways, and I'm not here trying to smear anybody or anything else, but it was absolutely news when I ran it, and I'm talking about it again tonight because it's still news. But I'm not gonna defend Elon. He's a big boy. He's not a poor little rich boy. He's a big boy. He can fight his own battles. Doesn't need me. Let him do it. And this is 60 million lives lost. I don't know, like Trump, that kind of, I was looking up the stats on this because that seemed like a incorrect number to me regarding the number of Russian casualties. I need to check this again. In that post that he directed at Vladimir Putin, I was questioning that because I know that the Russian army did not suffer that many casualties, didn't lose that many. Yeah, I don't know where he gets these numbers. This is the President of the United States, and his numbers are way off. I'm just looking up more here. See if I can find my notes from earlier. Okay, so here we go. Just for historical accuracy, the exact number of Soviet military casualties in World War II is a subject of debate, even among learned historians, but most estimates center around the following numbers. Approximately 8.5 to 10 million Soviet soldiers are estimated to have died. The most commonly cited figure is around 8.7 million from the Russian military archives, so that's the source. But some suggest that it could even be higher, maybe as many as 10 million, when including those who died in captivity from wounds or from other war-related causes. Now, total military casualties included wounded, missing, and POWs. The total number could hit like 20 million. It's massive, right? The huge sacrifice made by the country. And people, historians, military experts, political experts often talk about Russia's historic ability to absorb massive losses and still be an effective fighting machine in the face of war. But all those numbers are based on post-war Soviet and later Russian archival data. And some of that information has actually been scrutinized and even criticized regarding accuracy. Some say that the numbers are way underreported. Others say overreported for political reasons. And the Russian government has historically, tried to play up the sacrifice made in World War II, citing, really high casualty figures to solicit feelings of patriotism within their country. But 60 million? Where the hell did Trump come up with that? You would think that the President of the United States would maybe be a little more careful about what he actually posts. But total military and civilian casualties from World War II, the numbers, somewhere maybe as high as 26 million. That's not 60 million. Holy smokes. I'm going to look up the population of Russia. So going into World War II, the total population of Russia was around 196 million people. That was in like 1939. Well, Trump's not a historian, that's for sure. Maybe shouldn't be too critical of him. But wasn't, I think, two at one point, and it's during his first term in office, wasn't there an incident when he was being asked questions about Syria and somebody mentioned Aleppo and he didn't know where Aleppo was or what Aleppo was? Pretty sure. It might have been during the campaign heading into his first presidency. That was a bit of an embarrassment for him. But, in fairness, it's hard. He wasn't really a politician heading into that first election, and there was much for him to learn. And the world is a big place with a lot of places and a lot of cities. So even then I was cutting him some slack on that. I certainly don't know the names of every city in every country where there's a conflict going on or some political issue. And today, Trump also has returned to this policy of declaring the Houthis in Yemen a terrorist organization. And we've seen the Houthis attacking even U.S. military vessels at that pinch point in the shipping lanes. They've been launching missiles for over a year. It says here on ABC, just one of many media outlets reporting this tonight, President Donald Trump issued an executive order initiating a process to redesignate the Iranian-backed Houthi rebels as a foreign terrorist organization Wednesday, returning the group to the same status it held at the end of his first administration. Quote, this order sets in motion a process by which Ansar Allah, also known as the Houthis, shall be considered for designation as a foreign terrorist organization, the executive order said, noting that the group has, quote, fired at U.S. Navy warships dozens of times since 2023, endangering American men and women in uniform, and attacked more than 100 commercial ships, killing 4 civilian sailors. So I certainly welcome that, because hopefully by doing that, it might lead to some degree of de-escalation. Hopefully not escalation, but it puts the U.S. in a very difficult predicament as they try to keep those shipping lanes open, and the Houthis are determined to restrict transit through that area, certainly not allowing any Israeli ships going through, and also targeting U.S. flagged vessels, including the U.S. military. So far, and they've posted fake stuff online many times saying that they attacked and hit U.S. warships, including a destroyer, and it just wasn't true. It was all BS. Lots going on there. Okay, let's take another look. Oh, well, I'll share this with you before we break again. Now, Trump also issued not just a threat to Putin, but also, just was it yesterday or the day before, think it was maybe on the first day, maybe even before. Demanding that the Taliban in Afghanistan return all the military equipment that was left behind by Joe Biden. And the Taliban has basically said, nope, not going to do it. Sorry, screw off. Russian media picking up on it tonight, posting. There's some of the military equipment. Look at all that stuff. And that's your U.S. tax dollars at work under Biden. Let's leave it behind. It's just cheaper. Then we don't have to worry about shipping costs. Call FedEx. Get the stuff back. I don't know if I'd want it now. You want to get that stuff back from the Taliban? You think it'd be okay to do that? Who wants to be the first to get into a truck that the Taliban has had access to for the past, well, however long? You want to be the first to get in and turn the key? See what happens. Better give that truck a good once over before you start her up, lest because you don't want to get blowed to bits. And who knows if they've even been maintained at this point. You might not want those trucks back. They might need a little bit of work. And it's not just trucks, it's all kinds of military equipment. Holy smokes. Okay. Let's do that break, shall we? And we'll come back and continue with our broadcast. Holy smokes, look at the time. It's flying. Stay with me.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Maverick News. Expose lies and tell truth. The world is watching.
Dragon is on the line, but let me put the number up on the screen here as we get ready to talk to Dragon out of Montreal tonight. You can join the conversation if you'd like to at 1-519-401-1373. 1-519-401-1373. Go ahead, Dragon. You're on the air. What's up tonight, sir?
Well, I was thinking about that raised arm from Elon Musk, right?
Yeah.
Well, I will be agreeing with you. You know what? I'm dyslexic, ADHD, whatever you can have with that. Probably something along the way of a, how you call that? Whatever. I got probably other problems that goes along with those. And That's just me, right?
Yeah.
And if I would run around for presidency or in politics in general, I would not, raise my arm the same way he did, just because, it's like, how does I look now? Just question of normalcy or self-awareness, I think. If you're self-aware, you wouldn't have done something like that because, I don't know, it's blatant, right?
Yeah. Even if, regardless of it, I don't know what he was thinking when he did it. Maybe he wasn't thinking, but he should be thinking because of how that looks. And he should know better. I think he probably does. But then if he does know better and he did it anyway, was it intentional? Like, to me, I'm not cutting the guy any slack on this because it's just bad PR at best, and he meant it at worst. I don't know which. You can decide for yourself. But if any other politician, especially if it was a liberal politician, did that, come on. Don't you agree, Dragon, that people on the MAGA side, the conservative side, the opponents of liberals would be all over that?
Yeah, they would.
Of course, that's the way politics works.
Whoever would go there and raise his arm the same way, anyone would react. And even if you're a new racer into the politic race, or that you're a long fellow in the family, you don't do that. It will look just bad.
Yes.
And look, I do sometimes jokes or say things that might put myself into a bad spot, okay? Because sometimes I just don't think first. It would happen. It did happen. Been there, done that. But this is like a new level of stupidity, I think.
Especially when people have been accusing you of being a Nazi anyway, repeatedly. You'd think you would think a little bit about it. Maybe he doesn't care. But I'm not going to, he can deal with it. I reported the news. I put it on. I was a little bit surprised at how, I probably shouldn't be, but how triggered some people were and how they came after me just for showing the clip and talking about it and saying what I'm saying. But that's my opinion. I'm entitled to it, and you can deal with it. Folks, if you can agree or not agree, and that's okay.
What is how old is Musk? 50 something? So he's a big guy.
Yeah, and
he's a big guy. He's older than I am. He could be my older brother. So yeah, he knows better.
You would think so. And this is a guy who runs multinational companies, deals with governments around the world. He's he's the head of huge companies. But he's certainly an unusual guy. I'm sorry though. I'm just like, people just making excuses for this guy and running cover for him. Whatever, man. If you think you have to do that for him, be my guest.
Well, that goes along with what I was observing for the last few weeks, right? As soon as Trump knew that he was winning, I think there's some pressure that came up to his mind to a certain point where we have now a disillusional kind of a Napoleon syndrome Trump.
There's a what? I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you.
Basically, Trump is having a Napoleon syndrome.
What syndrome? A Napoleon? What?
Napoleon.
Oh, Napoleon! A Napoleon syndrome. Napoleon syndrome.
Yep.
I got you. Okay. Yeah, well, some people...
It's not just him. It's all the guys around him.
Yeah, this time around, I don't think anybody's really challenging him on anything. There is a degree of fear involved in what's going on with Trump right now. Other countries are afraid of him. I think the people around him are afraid of him. That's one way to rule. I've even heard him say in a speech about 3 months ago, he said that sometimes using fear isn't always a bad thing. He literally said that. And whoa. Okay. If I were in that position as a president or a prime minister, I wouldn't say something like that. I'm going to get people to, do what I want them to do by using fear. Really? Especially when you are literally probably the most powerful single individual on the face of the planet with weapons at your disposal that could destroy the earth. And you say that, it's just, no, I'm not into that, man. But that's okay. We'll see. I'm hoping that things calm down and that Trump maybe returns to the Trump that I remember from his first presidency. But there's a lot of bitterness and anger there, and I think he's looking for payback. And you can kind of understand that, but at the same time, got to be careful. When you have that much power, and he does, you need to be careful how you use it, and not even just how you use it, but just have to be careful about how you act.
Well, there's an old saying that goes along the way of careful what you wish for.
Not just that, but be careful what you say about and to other people, especially people who are much weaker than you are. But then at the end of the day, if the United States becomes too isolated, if he alienates too many people, and I think maybe he already has, it's going to damage the United States in ways that people are not going to see coming. It's about trust and, forging good relationships with other countries. That's what makes any other country stronger. You don't really make your nation stronger by using fear. You can push an enemy back, but you don't really keep your friends close by using fear. You just turn them into enemies. And they might stay in line because they're afraid of you, but they're not really your friend anymore.
Yeah.
So, very disappointed. I have to say, I'm just very disappointed in this approach. And I hope the tone changes. Maybe it will in the weeks ahead as we work our way through these negotiations on the tariffs. But only time will tell. Anyway, sir, I think we're going to jump off here. A final thought from you, sir?
Yeah, well, you know what, guys? Take yourself a moment and go back to that bishop end of when she did her sermon. At the end, the face of events is like priceless. You cannot have better, beautiful picture of a guy completely disappointed and face down like the job broke and all that. So I mean, it's funny as hell. So have a good night, guys. I hope you enjoy and take care.
Thank you, Dragon. Have a great night. Okay, Dragon from Montreal. If you want to join the conversation, you can weigh in at 1519-401-1373, 1519-401-1373. Okay, Mavericks, it's call-in time. Join the conversation. Call now, 1-519-401-1373. One 519-401-1373. Exercise your right to free speech. That's 1-519-401-1373. That's 1-519-401-1373. Maverick News. Call now. The world is watching and listening to you. Thank you to the Kron for your $2 donation. It really helps. Every dollar helps, and we really do need the help right now. I'm just going to be straight up. We are behind here, and we do need help in order to pay the bills again this month. We got behind last month because the donations dropped off. Not that we get that much, honestly, but every little bit makes a huge difference because we don't, we're not InfoWars. We don't have millions and millions of dollars pouring in. I don't know how the guy does it, honestly. But yeah, we could certainly use some assistance. So if you're inclined to support the channel, you can do that by donating at freedomreporters.com. freedomreporters.com, that'll take you to the PayPal page. You can donate there. If you do donate, I would be happy to send you a Maverick News t-shirt, $30 or more. We have hoodies as well, $60 or more, and I can send you a hoodie. If you donate $10 or more, I will send you the 10-song Free Dog album as a download, and I'll even include as a bonus track the All I Want for Christmas is Freedom song, which I thought was worked out really great with what we worked on here. I can include that one as well. And yeah, you can also donate by sending an e-transfer to rw581@aol.com. Now, if you do donate by e-transfer, please complete the security question. The bank needs that because all donations go into a business account for proper accounting, for legal, financial reasons, so that we pay all of our taxes and we stay clean on that front and we do things properly. But because it goes into a business account, we can't just do direct automatic deposit without the security question being completed on your end when you do that. And you will be prompted to do so. Please make sure you assign the security answer Maverick, all lowercase, just Maverick. And that way, we will know what the answer is automatically without having to guess, because when people send that stuff through, quite often it is not clear what the answer to the security question is. And people often will send it without doing that portion, and then we can't deposit the stuff, and I usually can't respond by email to the person who sent it, and so it's just a waste. It doesn't actually happen. It just goes out there into cyberspace, and then eventually the money just gets returned to you by the Interact system, but it never actually reaches us. So that's the dicey thing with the e-transfer stuff, but that's how it works. RW581. And the easiest way really is to go to the PayPal page just by typing in that URL, freedomreporters.com. Thank you so much to everybody who has donated. And yeah, we do need help. I'm just going to be straight up with you because we're behind on the bills, and it's the software, the subscriptions, even Rumble charges us a fee to be on, and we are not monetized on YouTube. Facebook, not monetized, not on Facebook anymore. No, they just won't let us run anything on there. They've kicked us off. So, yeah, that's where we're at. Really, really, really appreciate the $2. Thank you, sir, for that. Just going back here to the chat. If you do want to join the conversation, again, you can do that at 1-519-401-1373. There's the number again on the screen, 1-519-401-1373. Now, what else do we have to talk about tonight? A few other stories, I think. Yeah, some people still talking about Kevin O'Leary going down to Mar-a-Lago, meeting with Trump. Arlene Dickinson, another business person who appears on Dragon's Den with him yesterday, criticizing O'Leary, saying that he's really negotiating against Canada. She really called the guy out. I've said, too, I'm not comfortable with him in this particular case, going to Mar-a-Lago and sort of being a self-appointed negotiator on behalf of Canada, telling Trump that he shouldn't even talk to Trudeau, blah, 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 blah. I mean, he's welcome to offer up his opinions, I guess, on these programs that he appears on as a commentator, an accomplished business guy, I guess. But he has his own personal interests, I think, in mind here. And I think Arlene Dickinson is quite right when she says that he isn't really negotiating for Canada. In many respects, he's negotiating against Canada. I've mentioned that O'Leary has investments in energy, in the energy sector, particularly in oil refining and energy pipelines. Now, it's not exactly clear because there's not full disclosure from him as a private businessman in exactly what he owns like today, but he has made many public statements about his investments in oil, in energy infrastructure. He has announced plans to build a $14 billion oil refinery in the United States to enhance America's energy independence, which is what Trump wants. So when he's down there talking about Alberta oil, pipelines, energy, tariffs, the Canadian government, an economic union that he's proposing between the United States and Canada, I don't know that he's really got Canada's best interests in mind. He's not elected. He's an independent business guy doing his own thing. He has expressed intentions to syndicate debt and equity for his oil refinery project and find a state willing to host it, which would be the U.S. He's mentioned North Dakota, because you've got that pipeline that flows through there as a potential location. And that's because you can get permits down there for those kinds of projects fairly easily. The project's in its early stages. It isn't exactly clear where he's at with it, but I think he has other investors. And then he has the other interest in the artificial intelligence facility worth billions of dollars that he wants to build up in Alberta. So that's also why he's talking to Danielle Smith. And then wrapped up in all of that, he wants to buy Twitter. Or not, I'm sorry, TikTok. And that looks like it could be a $20 billion deal. So all this stuff is circulating around him while he's down there talking about Canadian sovereignty, Canadian energy, our resources, going down there almost like a self-appointed representative of the Canadian government. Well, no thanks. Nobody elected him. He has no mandate from the people. Trump can listen to whomever he wants, I guess. Lex Fridman says he's going to interview Vladimir Putin. He did that interview with Vladimir Zelensky. That got a lot of views. I thought it was actually a really good interview. And I know that Lex Fridman did live in Ukraine for a while. He's being pushed forward as a Soviet-born computer scientist and podcaster by Russian state media tonight, though, after this announcement. Now, Fridman did interview Zelensky. Was it earlier this month? I guess it was in January. But he's announced today that he's going to be traveling to Russia to interview Vladimir Putin. He says he's aware of the risks and he accepts the risks. And the goal, the mission, is just to push for peace, he says. And great respect to Lex Fridman for that. I like his interviews. I like his style. It's very kind of reserved. He's very thoughtful. He's a smart guy. He's very well educated. And I find that his work tends to be, I think, fairly neutral. He talks to people from all sides of an issue. He's not there playing partisan politics. He doesn't come across to me like he's a shill for anyone. And I find that very refreshing, especially today. And I aspire to try to reach kind of a similar level of fairness, always reaching back into my past and my roots, searching for ethics, journalistic ethics, and applying those, and a high standard for professionalism here. Given that this is a new medium and I'm trying to navigate my way through it, social media, an interactive medium where we're talking with people through the chat. You guys have a voice here too. It isn't just me, it's everybody. We all have a voice here, and of course we get these phone calls in too. So you can join the conversation in this new format, this new medium, at 1-519-401-1373. And the fact that it is a new medium actually does shape the kind of content that we present here, and it affects what we ultimately cover as well. And one of the reasons we're even talking about this Musk thing tonight is because of the social media effect, where people are keeping that story alive by tweeting about it, posting on Facebook, going on and on and on about it. It's become a little bit viral, hasn't it? And was it real? Did he really mean to do it? I don't know what's real and what it isn't anymore half the time. There's a lot of stuff that's fabricated out there. And then there was this huge $500 billion AI project announced yesterday by Trump. It involves OpenAI and some other companies. And Elon Musk not involved in it. And today, Musk has come out and has slammed OpenAI, criticizing the historic AI project, claiming that the people who are backing it up don't actually have the money. So Musk today on social media saying, quote, "They don't actually have the money. SoftBank has well under $10 billion secured. I have that on good authority." Not sure if I can pull that up on, yeah, it's okay. He says, Trump said the investment is going to create a new company called Stargate, and it's going to grow artificial intelligence infrastructure in the United States. There is a sort of an AI arms race, I would say, that's ongoing right now between the major powers of the world, especially between the United States and China. Now, the leaders of SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle appeared yesterday with Trump at that news conference, which we ran here on Maverick News. And they all stood with Trump at that news conference, side by side. And each of the companies involved is investing $100 billion to start, with plans to pour up to $500 billion into Stargate in the years ahead. And Musk, he's doesn't like, I guess, Sam Altman, and he's got an ongoing lawsuit feud going on, and those guys used to work together. He's going after the OpenAI initiative. Musk has this ongoing lawsuit. He says he doesn't trust Altman, and claims in his lawsuit that ChatGPT abandoned its original nonprofit mission by reserving some of its most advanced AI technology for private customers. Now, there's also, I think, a big announcement coming up within a week or two, I think it is. This is just off the top of my head, but there's supposed to be some major announcement, some sort of breakthrough AI announcement coming in the United States. And I think it was Jake Sullivan mentioned this at a news conference last week, maybe, saying that it's like really major. It's a game changer. Maybe even something we need to be worried about. It's like, I guess, probably some sort of a step toward, or maybe even the dawn of artificial general intelligence. I'm just not sure. They weren't really big on the details coming up, but look for that, and I think we're just, a week or two away from it. but it was before Trump took office that this was mentioned. So feuds brewing and continuing in the world of AI. CBC Brown 44, thank you for the $20 donation in the Rumble Rats. Thank you. So grateful. If you want the album, just send me an email, and I'll make sure that I send the songs out to you. You can email me at that email address, actually, rw581@aol.com. That'll get to me. Just send me a note. I'll send the songs along. Thank you so much for the support. Truly helps. What else do we have? Oh yeah, there's I don't know if we need to get into the tariff stuff. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe responded today to the threat of Trump's tariffs, but I think we've spoken enough about it tonight. It starts to weigh you down after a little while, you know. And then people say, well, you know, and this, just back to this Musk thing again, just because I stumbled on this while I was trying to make sure I don't miss any stories today. But here's Bernie Sanders. And people, you know, accused me of not providing full context when I ran that clip of Musk doing his salute. But it is full context. And it is not taken out of context because of all the accusations that have been leveled at Musk in the past for exactly this subject. And so here's Bernie Sanders explaining that this is why it's particularly stupid of Musk to do what he did, because the fact that he's been accused, and this is a hot button issue, which Musk is at the center of and knows it, that is part of the context. That's also one of the reasons why it was legitimate to run the clip. It's not just me trying to do a hit job on him. It's legitimate news. And then shortly after I ran it, of course, it all went viral. Not from me, but just worldwide because of what he did. Here's the Bernie Sanders post, and just look at what he writes. This is the context. Elon Musk has been backing neo-Nazi parties around the world. See, there's the accusation, and he's referring to the AfD over in Europe, interfering in elections and using his massive platform to attack anyone who doesn't share his extreme right-wing views. So that is why it's that's why it's partly a story. Not just because he did it, but because of everything that has come around it, the politics surrounding it. And of course, I knew that he would be attacked again. And here it is. Bernie Sanders is attacking it.
Billionaire oligarch Elon Musk has long supported right-wing causes here in the United States, including spending $250 million to re-elect Donald Trump. But recently, he's decided to take his political project global, backing far-right parties in many other countries and using his massive platform to attack anyone who doesn't share his views. Let's start with Germany. In December, Musk publicly endorsed the German Alternative for Deutschland, or AfD, a far-right political party with deep ties to the neo-Nazi movement. Its founder and former leader, Alexander Golan, has said that Germany should be proud of its soldiers in the world wars and that people should no longer reproach Germans for World War II. Another prominent AfD leader openly plays with Nazi themes, shouting at meetings, "Everything for Germany," a Nazi stormtrooper slogan banned in Germany. As recently as 2023, AfD members participated in a secret meeting in Potsdam that included neo-Nazis, where they discussed a mass deportation plan for, quote, non-assimilated Germans. They are also vehemently anti-Muslim. A 2017 AfD manifesto said, quote, "Islam does not belong in Germany. The AfD sees the spread of Islam and the presence of over 5 million Muslims, whose numbers are constantly growing, as a great danger to our state, our society, and our system of values." Despite trying to put forward a more moderate face in recent years, the current party co-leader Alice Weidel has said she sees the defeat of Nazi Germany as the defeat of one's own country by a former occupying power, rather than the country's liberation from the cruelty of Nazism. But Musk seems fine with all this. He has written that, quote, only the AfD can save Germany, unquote. He has repeatedly praised the party and recently hosted a live stream with Weidel to boost the party's electoral chances. And it's not just the German far right. Musk has regularly attacked UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, most recently saying that Starmer was complicit in the rape of Britain and calling for him to face criminal charges, while calling another Labour minister a rape genocide apologist. Musk has also repeatedly called for the release of Tommy Robinson, a member of England's openly fascist British National Party who is serving time in prison after libeling a 15-year-old Syrian refugee who was violently assaulted at school. Musk was so angry about Robinson's imprisonment that he suggested on X that the US should liberate the Brits from their tyrannical government. But Musk hasn't stopped with Germany and Britain. He has also leveled personal insults at many other officials who don't share his far-right agenda. He called German Chancellor Olaf Scholz an incompetent fool, and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau an insufferable tool. He's tried to get Italian judges fired for their rulings on immigration laws and attacked the European Union for its efforts to regulate social media platforms. Obviously, Musk has a right to free speech, but that doesn't mean he should be able to use his enormous wealth, much of which was obtained from American taxpayers via tens of billions in US government contracts and clean energy credits, to promote far-right extremists and interfere in the domestic politics of our closest allies. And that doesn't mean there should not be consequences when these words incite violence. The truth is that Musk is a symptom of a deeper problem in our democracy, the corrosive power of extreme wealth in warping our politics and concentrating power in the hands of just a few people. Around the world, we're seeing super wealthy, well-connected oligarchs using their economic power to swing elections, direct mobs, stifle critics, and seize political power. That's what Musk is doing now, and it's one of the most significant threats to our democracy and democracies around the world.
And there was a time when MAGA people loved Bernie Sanders. In fact, I think a lot of people still do. And there he is criticizing Musk. You know, and this is showing also cracks within MAGA, which I've said was likely to happen because any populist movement attracts people from across the political spectrum, really. And any populist movement, to some degree, ends up being somewhat dysfunctional as a result of that, because people have certain things in common, but on issues and ideology, but then there are other things that they're deeply divided on. And so that's why you see Steve Bannon going to war with Musk and other people from, you know, the OG MAGA group, including Laura Loomer and some others who are accusing Musk of being sort of new MAGA and dark MAGA and not real MAGA. And Steve Bannon has come right out and said, these are his words. I am just talking and telling you what's going on. But he says that Elon Musk is truly evil and he's a racist. That's from Steve Bannon. Now, you can look at that, I guess, and say, oh, it's just all drama. It's just World Wrestling Federation kind of activity within the MAGA movement. I don't think so. I think there's some real deep divides that are beginning to emerge, and we're just getting started, and we still have 4 years ahead of us. So we'll see what happens. It's tough to keep a populist movement together. Through history, that has always been the case. But Trump, he's at the center of it all. He's the man. He sets the agenda. And I don't know what's going to happen. Way too unpredictable. All I can say is I will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. Love you guys. What do you want to hear tonight as we close the night off? How about... We ran the Free Dog song last night. How about we run You want to go back in time? You want to go back to the before times in a DeLorean time machine? I'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on The Flip Side.
Future's in sight, the DeLorean's ready, it's time to ignite. Stainless steel with the gull-wing doors, this machine's built to break all the laws. Flux capacitor lights the way when the speed hits 88. Through the years the world will know this time machine's the star of the show. Magic 88, we're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar past present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. Hit the gas, the road's a blur, in the blink of an eye it's all astir. Lightning bolts power up the ride, with Mr. Fusion charged up inside. Fueling the future with scraps in hand, turning trash into power, that's the plan. From Hill Valley to the stars above, the DeLorean's ride is the one we love. Magic 88, we're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar past present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. Fleet Scott, we're on the move in that DeLorean, we found the groove. From Cotswold Ride to Marty's Scream, this car's the heart of the dream. Movie magic shining bright, DeLorean's wings ready for flight. Through history it stole the show, now forever it's the car we know. Magic 88, we're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar past present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. When you see those lights aglow and the tires blaze as the legends go, remember the ride that made us believe. With Mr. Fusion's power we never leave. We're flying through time in a DeLorean, feeling so fine. With Mr. Fusion we're set to soar past present, future, forevermore. Magic 88, hold on tight, in the DeLorean we light up the night. Great Scott, we're on the move, in that DeLorean we found the groove. From Doc's Wild Ride to Marty's Scream, this car's the heart of the dream. We never leave.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.